I'm 35 and in the dreaded dating scene. Fuck, I hear it's rough now. I mean, it was rough when we were dating,
like
but
2 years ago.
yeah.
It was rough.
Okay, I've been ghosted suddenly after a few great dates and what felt like a really good connection forming. How do I stop obsessing over what I may have done wrong and what could have been? I feel like this will make my dating anxiety even worse than it already is. I feel like I'm losing all hope that I'll ever meet someone that actually likes me back.
This breaks my heart, but this is something that everyone feels. Like everyone at some point goes through something. And it's funny to look back, but I remember saying on this podcast, what's wrong with me? Like I'm the common denominator because I've been dating for however many years, however many dates, and it's always me, like it doesn't work out. So it's me. They go on and the next person, I always said I was the one before the one. The next person they date, they fall in love with, which makes it worse because you're like, it's not that you weren't ready. It's just that.
Yeah, you lied.
You lied. You you are ready because you're married. But that hurts because you get into this really deep, very unhealthy cycle of thinking that it's you. There's not a lot of advice around this other than you have to tell yourself how many people there are in the world. The odds of you waking up, walking out, going on a date for the first time, him being the person marrying for 45 years, they're slim. Like some people do that and they meet their soulmates really, really young, but majority of people don't. And I think the only thing that you can tell yourself is that you don't want to settle, you know what you're looking for, and then truly try and break down within yourself. Are you upset because you thought that person was the one and they didn't feel it back? Or are you just upset because you just feel a little bit rejected and rejection hurts?
No, I think also it's the feeling of misreading. Like when you're invested in someone, you've gone on several dates with them, you think it's heading in a great trajectory and then they just all of a sudden fucking ghost you. Like, of course it's going to leave you with questions that are unanswered and feeling as though you have done something. I firstly want to validate what you're saying because anyone would feel as though they had done something wrong to turn that person off. But I really, really want to emphasize the fact, and I strongly believe this, someone ghosting you says way more about them and where they probably are in their life. Like he might have other girls on the go. He might have other things happening that have meant that, he couldn't be as invested in you as what you thought he was. And that's not because you have misinterpreted it. So many people are incredible at showing up when they're on a date and making you believe that they are completely invested in you, that they're not interested in anyone else, that things are going in such an incredible way. And then all of a sudden you feel like emotionally, like you feel like this emotional whiplash because all of a sudden they're not interested in you and they're dating someone else. That is more about their personality and how they are able to kind of switch it on and switch it off. So many people can do that and a lot of people can't. And I think it's that mismatch in when you are all in and how and what they have going on in their personal lives.
But also remember how common, unfortunately, ghosting is. Like
Totally.
you are not a one-off being ghosted here. Like, I mean, how many times we've been ghosted, Laura? How many times every single week we have people writing about ghosting? Like it is ferocious out there.
And I want to say, like, I mean, I've ghosted people in the past, which I've talked about it before, and it's definitely not something that I would ever do again, obviously, because I have to ghost my husband. But I understand now at my age and at this point and also in how many episodes we've done on relationships, how damaging it is to the other person. But usually it comes from a place of conflict avoidance and it comes from a place of that person's own insecurity or not wanting to deal with the repercussions. And I would say in every instance where I ghosted, not that there was many, but in the couple of times that I did, it was always because I had other big things going on in my life. And I was like, I can't deal with that. Like I can't deal with your hurt and your upset. And so I would like remove my super selfish. In no way am I negating the behavior, but I'm kind of explaining the thought process that often happens with someone who's conflict avoidant and then they ghost. The only other thing I want to say is, and I know that I've been out of the dating pool for a really long time and there's nothing more fucking infuriating than hearing someone who's like in a happy marriage be like, just keep dating, you'll meet someone one day. And obviously Britt, now like you are also in a happy relationship for a very long time there. Like you were the one who was like waving the dating flag. But what I do want to say is every single person that I have spoken to recently who is in the dating pool and in the dating world. I mean, just recently when we were in Bali, a friend of ours is currently dating and she's like, you know what, I'm just having some actual time off because I am so exhausted by how constantly disappointed I am in men. This is a heterosexual relationship. But I want to say that you are not alone in feeling dating anxiety, because the dating world is very, very hard at the moment. People are extremely disposable in how they treat other people. We're always looking for something better. We always have multiple people on the go. And I think that dating now is probably the hardest that it's ever been, to try and find someone who is committed, who is not putting their own selfishness above other people, and also is not like got multiple people on the go at the same time. So I would say my recommendation, and you can take it or leave it, is try not to get too invested too quickly. Spend time getting to know someone on a very like casual, obviously it doesn't have to be casual in terms of like being sexual, whatever else, but internally and how emotionally connected you're getting to them. Just have a bit of self-preservation before you go all in. And then that might protect you from situations like this, where after 5 dates, you're really invested and you have invested in someone who wasn't matching you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we live in a world where, and I completely understand why, your anxiety builds with every year, because you're 35 and your anxiety comes from a lot of external pressures, and internal pressures.
Yeah, it's so hard.
We have a biological clock. We can always say you don't settle, you do things when you want, don't rush, women are having babies older. That is all accurate, but you cannot deny the fact that women's fertility runs out really quickly. And I understand why women feel this extra anxiety when they get to their mid-30s and they're single. If they don't have children yet and they want them, it is something that it is all you're going to think about all day.
But I also think it comes down to being, once you're in that point of dating, so like if you're 35, you know you want a relationship, you know that you want to have kids one day, like not everyone does, but if that's something that you know, it also comes down to being intentional about dating, and not kind of, because I think we can all be very, very kind and try and make someone fit. You know, they might be telling you to your face that they're not meeting you where you need to be met to have all those things in life, but you might really like them, and so therefore you try and make the relationship fit. I think sometimes it's trying to divide your feelings from your mind and go, okay, can this person, as much as I'm feeling really excited about this connection and this person, will this person give me those things that I want in life? And trying to be a little bit intentional about dating as well, and not just being led by your heart, because that's really important.
I think you can do that and still be ghosted. Like, I think that's what she's done. Totally. She said the connection was forming. She felt it going well. And again, that's not on you. It's on them. But the last thing I want to say is it's completely up to you how you take control of your life in this situation. For me, I wasn't willing to settle, and I didn't want to go down the track of kids alone.
Yeah.
But I did want to preserve the option. So that is why I did the egg freezing, and then I continued in the dating world. I also took time off when I needed to. But I do want to say, I was 35 when I met Ben. Like, you're 35, but I was 35. I feel very lucky I met him at that age. But I wouldn't have settled if I didn't meet him. I would have kept dating until I found the right person. I do just want to say, don't let that anxiety get the better of you. And if your anxiety is surrounded in any capacity with children and fertility, maybe go and have that initial fertility chat with a doctor and see if there is anything you can do if you haven't already done the egg freezing, because the anxiety relief that I felt, the weight off my shoulders when I did that, was huge. I still had a bit of anxiety about, like, am I going to be alone forever? Like the standard thing that everyone feels. But it was a weight off my shoulder, and my anxiety was halved when I was like, cool, I've looked after myself in that capacity. Let's just see what happens.
But also there is nothing worse for the long term of your life than settling in a relationship because you have anxiety around being alone. Because imagine being 50 and waking up one day and going, holy fuck, I married that hunk of shit. Like, why did I do that? And now I have a whole life.
Like a
like a literal hunk of gastro. Why did I marry that person? You don't want to be in that situation. And a lot of people do find themselves there because they married someone who wasn't quite right, but they wanted to make it fit.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that I think we all
hang in there.